Okay, here are the answers to your study guide. Which inequality represents all real numbers greater than 4 and less than or equal to 7? So they're greater than 4, so greater than 4, and then less than or equal to 7. So A is your answer. B, the solution x equals 0 satisfies the compound inequality. Before you do anything, you've got to solve. So we start with this one, divide both sides by -2. When I divide by a negative, I flip. 6 divided by -2 is -3. Or, and then let's just take, here, let's go over here. And then over here we've got 2x plus 1 is greater than 5. I subtract 1, divide by 2, and here is my other solution. Now, all right, so now we have to graph it. So here's -3, here is 2. I go to -3, it's a closed circle going to the left. I go to 2, it's an open circle going to the right. So the question was, is x equals 0 a solution? So since it's an or, all of these answers and all of these answers are possible solutions. 0 is here. It is not shaded. Therefore, that is a false statement. All right, this is what we did on our warm-up today. So 3 times n minus 7 is less than 17. And it's greater than 5. N is greater than 7. Or n is less than 5. You actually put that together too, right? Couldn't we? Let's see. N is greater than 7 or less than 5? No, you couldn't put that together. Let's go like that. 13. 6 more, so 6 more than twice n is at least. So remember, at least is actually a sneaky word because it actually means greater than or equal to. So greater than or equal to 20. Or 8 increased by n is less than 0. Eight, less than is a turnaround word. Less than n is no more than. No more than is a sneaky word. That's actually less than or equal to 14. And no less than 5. So no less than 5. All right, complete the chart. If I start here, all of these actually are going to have 1 through 5 on them. All right, so if I go to 1, I'm going to break this up. This is x is less than 5, and then this is actually alligators eating the x, so 1. So this was a less than, so it's going to be an and. So I go to 1, it's an open circle going this way. 5, open circle going that way. It's an and, so it's actually just right here in the middle. For interval notation, remember if it's an open circle, it's parenthesis, starting at 1. Then I go to 5, parenthesis. All right, on this one, we actually have to go back a little bit, which is kind of odd. So I start at 1. This parenthesis right here tells me it's an open circle. And then since it's going to negative infinities, it's going to have an arrow. Here, this bracket means that it's a closed circle at 5. And that's going to positive infinity. Now if I do my inequality, I would just straight up write it. This is obviously an or because they're going opposite ways and because I can see this U for union. So I would just write it as x is, okay, so it's an x and a 1, and then the arrow is pointing this way, and then x and a 5. It's a closed circle, so we know we're going to have the equal, and then that one's pointing that way. I'm just following the arrow. And once again, it's a compound, so you need to put or. Alrighty, here that equal sign means it's a closed dot and it's pointing to the left. Here it's another equal sign under there, so closed dot going to the right. Let's do the interval notation. So I start at the number 1. It's a closed circle, so it's a bracket, and then negative infinity, parenthesis, union, bracket, 5, going to positive infinity, parenthesis. All right, this time, once again, we're going back. We know it's definitely not a union because there's no infinities. So it's definitely got to be an intersection, an and, where they crisscross. So if I go to 1, it was a bracket, so it's closed. 5 is a parenthesis, so it's open, and it's just in between. And then if I do the actual inequality, remember if it's an and, if it's an intersection, you put them together. So this is x, 1, 5, and then we got to think about which inequalities we're going to use. So this one is open, and then the other one was closed. All right, so let's take this to the side, negative 5. First of all, this is less than, so less and, so you put and. Now I break it up. This is negative 5 is less than or equal to negative 2x plus 1, and negative 2x plus 1 is less than 1. Now I solve. Subtract 1, divide by negative 2. I divide by a negative, I flip, and then I got to flip it again. Over here, subtract 1, divide by negative 2. When I divide by negative, I flip. So those are my two solutions. Now I go to my number line. All right, so it's an and, so once again, it's going to be an intersection. Most likely, they're going to crisscross. I go to 3, it's a closed dot going this way. And then I go to 0, it's an open dot going this way. So I just want that intersection. So my solution is actually 0 to 3, and then in the middle. All right, and then let's do set notation. So set notation, we just take our answers over here and we rewrite them. Now this was an and, so we actually need to put them together first, and the lesser value needs to go to the left. So I'm going to start with x is less than or equal to 3. The alligator's eating the x, the alligator's eating the x, 0. That's my solution. So my set be x for all, 0 less than x less than or equal to 3. My interval, I look back up at my solution, and I start at 0. It's a parenthesis because it's an open circle. Then I go to 3 with a bracket. All right. We know this is an or because it straight up told us or right there. So let's do both of them separately. The opposite of multiplying by 1/4 is multiplying by 4/1. So you take the reciprocal, which is just 4. Those go away. 2 times 4 is 8. Over here, we're going to divide by 5. Okay, so there's our solution. Let's go ahead and graph it. All right, I go to 8. It's an open circle to the right. And then I go to 3. It's an open circle to the left. This is an or, which means any of those solutions are possible, so I'm good to go. For set notation, I would take these. Now remember, I want to start with the smaller number, which would be 3. So brackets x for all x less than 3, or x greater than 8. And then for interval notation, I look back up at the graph. It's pointing to all negative infinity numbers, so negative infinity, 3 parenthesis, union. And then I go to 8. That's also a open circle, so parenthesis, to positive infinity. All right, break it up. Over here, I'm going to divide both sides by 9. Flip it. Over here, I divide both sides by 9. All right. It doesn't say and or, so I look at the inequality. It's a greater. So this is going to be an or compound. Okay, so this is or. I go to -3. It's open. It's going this way. And then I go to -6. It's open going that way. Remember, this is an or, so any of those are possible solutions, which means that the entire number line is my solution. Therefore, for set notation, I would say V for all real numbers, and then all negative infinity and positive infinity numbers. All right, this one says or, yippee-doo. So I just subtract 1. X is greater than or equal to 2. Subtract 6. X is less than -2. Okay, so I go to 2, closed circle, going to the right. Then I go to -2, open circle, to the left. This is an or, so it's completely fine that they're opposites. For set notation, I would just take my 2 solutions. You want to do the smaller number first, which is -2. So x for all x less than -2, or x greater than or equal to 2. Your interval notation is all negative infinity numbers to -2, parenthesis, union. 2 is a closed circle, so bracket, and then to positive infinity. Okay, so we take our inequality, and I know we really didn't talk too much about this in class, but it's actually a lot simpler than it looks. This is your x value, that is your y value. I'm just going to plug in. So if my x value is -1, I go to -1 plus 5. My y value is -3. Okay, so -1. 5 times -3 is -15. And then -1 minus 15 is -16. So then remember, the alligator wants to eat the bigger number. 15 is bigger than -16. So that is a true statement. They're asking me which is not a solution. So that one's good to go. So let's just go ahead and cross that one out. Then we go to the next one, B. So x plus 5y is less than 15. This is my x. This is my y. So I plug in -1 plus 5 times 3. 5 times 3 is 15. -1 plus 15 is 14. And sure enough, the alligator's eating the bigger number. So that's not it, because that